Let's bring Dawood Walid in, Executive Director of CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations in Michigan, which has also seen a number of protests at University of Michigan. But, you know, I might ask you to react to what Nancy just reported at USC first. The idea, I was wondering about how all of this might affect some graduation ceremonies. Your thoughts on USC calling off their ceremony?
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate. And the initial situation that USC started with trying to quell the free speech of a valedictorian, which ironically gave more voice to her when she's able to speak on national, international media, and then has snowballed now. Now we see protests across college campuses all throughout these United States of America. So we see the effects of when trying to quell or squash free speech, that the people, especially these young people in Gen Z, is actually invigorating them to actually speak more boldly and actually to organize themselves more in regards to Palestinian rights.
All right, a couple of things on that last point. We've had, in fact, we just saw the show today. We had a Jewish student that goes to Columbia said he's had a number of anti-Semitic comments hurled his way and doesn't feel great about it. Obviously, doesn't feel safe. What would you say about that component of these protests and how it's developed this time around?
Well, I'm not sure how he defines anti-Semitism. There's Jewish students who are actually protesting in favor of divestment from Israel. They're actually.
No, it was more slurs being screamed in his, not on the issues of the war itself, how it's being executed, or what the university should do with their money. It was just, ugly slurs being hurled his way as he was walking around campus and that kind of thing, which we've seen on tape at some of these, especially at Columbia and some other places too.
It's unfortunate, but that's not the vast majority of the people who are peacefully protesting. So I would just say that it is somewhat trying to squash the actual real reason why people are protesting, and that's illegal occupation and genocide. So words that are harmful and actually hurt people's feelings, that feel somewhat threatening, have no place in our discourse. But what should have zero tolerance is that the United States of America is currently funding a ethnic cleansing and crimes. Over 34,000 Palestinians dead, vast majority women and children. Water and food have been deprived, white phosphorus use, over 77,000 Palestinians injured, vast majority of them civilians that have nothing to do with Hamas.
So you're calling, and not just you, but the protests in general have been calling for divestment, and you used that term a moment ago, from these universities in, pretty much any company and other investment that they might have that supports Israel, right? I've been trying to understand. So we haven't seen any of that, by the way, from universities, and I'm not sure that we will, because how realistic is something like that? As you know, many of these endowments, they're invested in all kinds of funds that they're not even individual companies. And then when you talk about individual companies, it's sometimes tough to make the connection. So it doesn't seem like there's been much effect on that. I haven't seen anybody say that they're going to change their investment strategy as a result of what the protests are calling for.
Well, my father, who grew up in the civil rights movement and also protested against the Vietnam War, he actually was arrested on the University of Michigan's campus. That action and those protests took college students 10 years before there was actual action and movement in regards to the Vietnam War. So I think that the students who are on the ground right now, they're not looking for instant results. This is really a movement right now. This is a pivotal moment in American history, and we have not seen the protests on campuses like this, and also the responses since the time of Vietnam War, since the time of Kent State University, excessive police force like what we saw in Texas, or excessive police force that took place in 1970 at Jackson State University. This is really reminiscent of a time back of like my parents' generation, right, or the grandparents of these students who are protesting right now.
So it could go on for some time. All right, Dawood Walid, we appreciate your views. Thank you for coming on. We'll keep covering this from all angles, get all kinds of perspectives on it, but we're going to go back to